So I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And I'm going to return to PCS, and I'm going to refresh. And you'll see right in my header, I have the LOA, letting me know that the patient is on a leave of absence. And also in the new status board data item, I have the LOA. So I'm going to go ahead and open my chart. And I get a pop-up message that says that the patient is currently on leave of absence. Do I want to continue? I do. And I'm on my work list. And you can see that my ordered intervention that is here did change to a hold status. Must be out of order. Maybe this one stayed. Might be needing a minute to catch up. See. Must be just waiting for the information to catch up. But the item should be going to a hold status, and the order should be as well, because I want them to go to a hold. But it looks like it might just be stuck in the background job, so I can look at that later. But all the items would go to a hold status. The next one I'm going to go over. No. Add to my list. Go back to my list. I'm going to take my patient off a leave of absence as well. And I can click my return from LOA, save that. Right. And we'll return to my patient. So over here, I'm on my list, and we do have a new enhancement for group notes. So this allows me to add a note to a group of patients that may be receiving the same care at the same time. So we've seen this used for group therapies, teaching, activities, things like that. And they do need to have, users need to have access to this based on their person dictionary on the clinical tab. So I have this group notes button. I do have a pending one on here, but what I can do is I can add a new note. So it's showing me all my patients that are on my list, and I can check off the ones that I want to associate the note to. I can define a date and time. Duration, so let's say it was a 30-minute session. I can put in co-facilitators. And then down here, we have our eating disorder therapy. And then I can click Document Note. So here I have some can text that pulled in based on the bills. And this is information that will be assigned, associated to all of the patients. So we can say that the goal for this session was discuss eating logs with family. We can document any activities. And then I also have individual notes. And this gives me all the patients that were there, and I can document their individual note. So you can see I have the check mark here to indicate that I documented the individual note. If they were a no-show, I could check off no-show, and it would just let me know that they were a no-show. I can pull in any canned text from here if I had some that applied to this. I can also use the data format to pull in formatted data. And then if I wanted to clear any of the text that's in here, I could do so as well. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. I am going to be required to enter my PIN based on my setup. All right, and it went over. So if I'm returned to my list, and I'll go into Tessa Watson's chart. And I go over to the notes panel. You'll see I have the eating disorder group. And if I click on that, I'll see everything from the group note, and it is labeled with group note. And then down here is everything in the individual note. Over in the person dictionary, as I mentioned, is where the access to this is. And then on the clinical tab, edit group notes needs to be set to edit. If I only want to be able to view them, I would set it to view, but in order to do the documentation, it does need to be set to edit. Okay. So we're going to return to Tessa's chart, and we're going to go to the plan of care. So we have another new enhancement that allows us to link notes to PCS problems. So this was an enhancement for the continuing care software, and it introduced this ability using this add note button. So we have the add note button down here. It's only going to be active on the overview and problem tab. You'll notice if I go to the outcome tab, it's not there. Same thing with the interventions tab. So the interventions. So if I'm on problems or on the overview, it is active. So if I click add note, it's just like the write note feature that we have over in the secure pages, and I just wanted that to interrupt us, so I had to turn the volume down in the room. So it's just like the write note routine that we have from the chart and our side buttons. I can add in any data format, which is our formatted data. I can do our canned text. If I've saved anything from the EMR, I can add that as well. And I could add quick text if I have some, but I don't. So click OK. I need to enter my PIN. And you can see now I have the little note icon appearing. And if I go over to the notes panel, I see the nursing note. And if I click on links, it lets me know that it's linked to that problem. Okay. So the next one that I'm going to talk about is our electronic signature and credentials enhancement. So this is also one that was for continuing care. And it provides the ability to electronically sign assessment documentation and plans of care, along with providing users showing their credentials. So this enhancement allows you to add electronic signatures to the interventions and outcomes within the dictionaries and based on the PCS toolbox parameters globally. Let's take a look at some of those settings. So first we're going to go into our intervention dictionary. And require e-sign is the field that is requiring me to electronically sign. Also set up in the outcome dictionary. Oh, helps if I could spell. And require e-sign on the facility tab. Additionally, I have the toolbox parameters that can be set by your Meditech specialist. On the cutoff days tab, enable e-sign for plan review. So if I return to the chart and return to a plan of care, you'll see I have my review button. And reviewing just is saying that I've reviewed the plan of care and everything is as I expect. And when previous to this enhancement, I would click that button and it would just be saying I reviewed it. Now I can associate my e-sign and then I just have to enter in my PIN. And that saves in there for me. And when I look at the review, I can see that information by going to the history and see who reviewed it, and it gives me my date and time, and it shows that I e-signed. I'm going to go over to my work list, and I'm going to document on our ADL assessment. Because it's the one that I have set up to require e-sign. We're going to do some documentation. Let's say they're pretty independent. Save that. And when I save, I'm going to get the pop-up asking me for my e-signature. Go ahead and put that in. And if I look at my detail, can see the documentation, and the e-sign field is populated with my who e-signed to indicate that it was e-signed. And then I also have my outcome. I'm not showing the outcomes on my work list. Oh, I do need to see if there's anything more. So I'm going to just insert that specific outcome in here so I don't need to, so I can show you how that one's working. There it is. Turn to my work list. Oh, because it's going to inactive, that would be why. There it is. I'm going to document on this one. This is also an enhancement, so if there is an item text associated, we are getting a pop-up when I do go to document on it, so I can see that item text. Say met ongoing, save and exit, getting the pop-up to e-sign. And if I click on the detail and look at my history, I can see e-sign by and the user that e-signed it. I also see this information from the plan of care. Sorry, the patient care panel. And I can see the e-sign right here. It's listed as DC. That's the initials that are associated to my user. Okay. All right. The next enhancement we have is officially titled the Acute Discharge Process Phase 2. This enhancement is introducing changes to discharge within PCS specifically. So prior to this, EDM had some really great functionality within their ED routine that was never introduced into PCS. But with this, PCS is able to get some of these enhancements. So the first part adds a couple of new things. We have a discharge CDS. We have asked discharge disposition. We have a default discharge disposition, and also a default condition. So this is all based on your parameter setup. So if we go into the parameters, you'll notice we have two discharge tabs now. So we have the discharge CDS. So this is a CDS that you can use to attach to your discharge. We have the ask discharge disposition. So what this one is doing, this is saying when you go to discharge the patient, you need to add a discharge disposition. Warn, prevent, or none are the options. I have my default disposition, my default condition, and then the referral default's always been there. And looks, these are the discharge dispositions that I can use. And then additionally, we have a discharge intervention. So this is an intervention that is associated to the discharge routine and allows me to require them also. So I have the action here, and this is saying for the one that's set to prevent, I cannot discharge my patient unless I document that intervention. So warn, prevent, none. Warn just gives me a warning, but I'm still able to discharge them. It's not a hard stop. So if we return to the chart in discharge, we have our discharge plans that works as it always has. And then over on discharge data, you'll see down here my discharge intervention. I can add any other intervention here if I'd like, but I can also click on it and do my documentation if I need to. So this one isn't I did it, so I could just say, I did it. I'm not going to save that one. The discharge information tab, so this is that CDS. So any other information that you're looking to capture during the discharge process, you would put here. And this allows you to put any types of queries on here that you feel need to be captured in discharge that are not part of the standard discharge field. And then we also have this discharge history, which can be very helpful. And it gives you a nice detailed history of everything that was added within discharge. So I can look at specific data fields. I can go by users. If I want to look at specific queries, I can see that here as well. Waiting for it to load. As you can see, this is an old patient, so we do have a lot of data on them. Allergies are starting to get the best of me. So I keep sniffling. And want this to load so I can show you what it looks like. Oh, there you go. So I can see here there was discharge that was intervention that was added. It shows me who added it, if there was an old and a new value. So you can see that with the print language, my new value was English, but it was previously set to Spanish. And I can see that Liz made that change. Okay. Go over to the work list. And we'll get my interventions back. Remove my outcomes. And the next enhancement I'm going to talk about is insert column when documenting on the work list. So this was one that was also put into 608. And this enhancement allows for users to insert columns on the flow sheet. That really just allows for easier entry during real-time documentation. And we added a sort of quick add feature. So I'm going to click on my vital signs, and I'm going to click document. You can see in here, I have my save and exit. Right now they're not highlighted because I don't have any documentation. That's already been done. But I also have these new buttons down here. So I have my refresh that just kind of refreshes. So if someone else is documenting some vital signs at the moment, I can get their vital signs in there as well. And then I'm going to go into our other mode because it might be easier to see. So if I click the plus sign here, you'll see I added an additional column. The column that appears when I click the plus button is always going to be the column for today and now. So say I needed to document vital signs, over a course of time, what I can do is say 98, and then say we're 99, and then I can just document this information. Say I decide I don't want to save my documentation from 1428. I have this red X button down here, and that marks that column as not being saved. So when I do click save, it will not save anything for 428. I'm going to go ahead and save it. I do have a required field, so I need to add that. So I'm going to click save. I do have to enter my PIN on this one as well. And because I clicked save and not save and exit, I'm going to remain on the flow sheet screen. And then as you can see, that 1428 time did not save. So I'm going to click the plus sign again because I want to do some additional documentation. And as soon as I add information, you'll notice that my refresh button changed. So I have my green refresh. As soon as I add information, it turns into my yellow swoosh. If I click this, this is letting me know that it's going to clear any unsaved data on my screen. So if I go ahead and click yes, it clears out that column that was there. Once you add a new column, you are able to change the date and time. So I click the drop down. Obviously, I can't do it in the future. But if I wanted to document for noon today, I could do that. We'll say the temperature was 101 at that point. I can save it here, enter my PIN again. And I had a query link, so that does trigger as well. Not going to do anything with the query link. And it does return me to the flow sheet, and you can see that the 12 o'clock column populated where it needed to be. Okay. The next enhancement I'm going to talk about is our changes to documentation functionality. So this assessment allows for users to document, edit, and view yes, no, and group type query groups. So previous to this, only PCM could use query groups within their documentation. However, now PCS is able to use them. Individual queries that are part of the query group may be used with rules and query values if you need to do them for billing as well. Query group documentation will also display on patient reports and within clinical panels. Finally, this enhancement allows users to select multiple responses within the assessment. So we do have, so if we look at the query group dictionary, so clinical, dictionaries, query group, dictionaries, documents, then query group. Take a look at this one specifically. So this is an animal bite location. So I have my group response here and then the specific queries. And then when I'm in the documentation section, you'll see I have the type of group. Close some things, and we're going to return to our chart, and I'm going to document on my animal bite evaluation. Expand everything so I can see it. And you can see I have my queries. And then down here I have this animal bite location. So this is allowing me to say where the bite is using query group. So there was a bite on the left shoulder, the left arm, left elbow, both forearms, the right hand, and both feet, we'll say. Kind of a bad spike. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. This one also is requiring me to e-sign. And if we go ahead and look at the history and look in the flow sheet, I can see that it showed me left with all the responses I documented left, and then also any of the responses that I documented right, and then bilateral, and how it's broken up. And you can see the trending of data as well. If I go to patient care panel, I need to refresh. There it is. And I can see that here as well. Okay. Next is drag and drop. So there was a new field added to the PCS Access Dictionary that allows for the disabling of this functionality. So if you're not looking to use, I believe this is my access. Drag and drop. So enable, disable. So if you don't want your users to be able to drag their documentation, they will not, you can set this to disabled. So you can see when I click on a specific that view, you can see it kind of goes grayed out, and I dragged it over here. If I wanted to drag the whole column, I could also do that, and it dragged everything over. You can also do it by question set if I didn't want everything to drag. I just wanted that specific question set, and I click on there, and you'll notice the no action required didn't pull over just the documentation in this question set. You can also use copy. So you can see when I did a right click over here, I do have some different options, so I can copy and paste that way as well. So the next one, I'm just going to mention and show you the fields that are associated with it. If you're interested in looking, seeing this functionality in more detail, we do go over this during our TAR WebEx. But in our toolbox parameters, we do have an enhancement that is for the documentation of pre and post vital signs on the TAR. So this will allow you to document pre and post vital signs. And there's some warnings that are introduced as well. So let's go ahead and take a look at the TAR settings. And the pre-vital signs do refer to anything that's at issued or is transfusing. You are not able to document pre-vital signs on something that is at a ready status on the TAR. So we're going to start with the first new setting, and this is going to be start vital sign schedule after begin time. So this is a yes or no policy, and it controls whether or not you're going to immediately start the vital signs after beginning the transfusion, or if you're going to wait that first, for this one it would be 15 minutes. I think this is a great setting. We had a lot of customers that were changing their vital signs directions because they didn't want to document the vital signs as soon as the transfusion was started. They wanted to wait 15 minutes, usually is what we saw. So this is saying that they want, whether or not they want it to be that, 15, 30, whatever the first direction is, or if they want the first set of vital signs due as soon as you start it. The next one is the document pre-transfusion vital signs. So the options here are warn, prevent, none. So this determines if you're going to be warned or prevented from starting the transfusion without documenting pre-transfusion vital signs. So if it's set to warn, you will get a pop-up saying, hey, you haven't documented vital signs. You should do that now if you want to. Prevent, you will not be able to start the transfusion until you document your pre-transfusion vital signs. Or if it's set to none, you're not going to be warned at all. We also have the same setting if it's an emergency issue. So you might want your users to always document pre-transfusion vital signs under normal circumstances, but if it's an emergency issue, you might want this set to one or none, so they don't have to wait to get that documentation in. The next one is document pre-transfusion vital signs minutes. So this determines how many minutes in the past to look for your vital signs documentation before the user elects to begin their transfusion. So if I documented vital signs, say, at 2:20 today, and I go to start my transfusion now, since this is set to 10, those vital signs from 2:20 would not count. I would have had to have documented at 2:30 or later for them to count me starting at something at 2:40. And then document post-transfusion vital signs minutes. So these are the amount of minutes after the transfusion has been ended that I want to be alerted for documenting post-transfusion vital signs. Okay. I'm going to close my chart because the next one I'm going to show is an enhancement that allows for users to document interventions directly from the next intervention column on the status board. And it looks like I don't have any with time, so I'm going to go add some frequencies to some of my interventions. Some frequencies. And we'll close my chart. Okay. So we have Tesla Watson here, and I have my, let's click that in here. And I'm going to check a couple of things off here. And I'm going to click Document. And it's going to allow me to do that documentation. So it allows you to do, and then document on one of them, fine. And it allows me to do that documentation without having to access the chart. And then also with this enhancement, when I'm over in the plan of care, again. Go to my interventions. I have these checkboxes here, and this allows me to document on any interventions directly from the plan of care. So I can check off multiple interventions and click the document footer button. And it saves that I did that documentation. I also wanted to put the wrong one. There we go. Okay, return here. If it's an I did it, it actually is a lot quicker than it used to be. And I can check them off and click document. And it's just saying, you know, do you want to save the following? So these are I did it. They're ones that don't have any documentation sections. So rather than opening up the documentation section, the flow sheet to do that documentation, I'm just able to do it that way. And also the same will happen when I'm on the work list. So if I check off here and click document, since then I did it, it's not going to open the flow sheet. I can say save, don't save, or if I select continue, it's going to open the flow sheet for me. Maybe I need to change the name of the person that's doing the documentation, or I need to change some time. I can do that from there. So that concludes the portion of the webinar where I am going to be showing you specific things. We have some additional enhancements that I'm going to talk to you about and just make sure you're aware about some additional enhancements that we do have. So the first one I like to mention is our matrix billing. So this was an enhancement, once again, for continuing care that allows for matrix charging and reimbursement. So matrix charging allows for the system to replace transactions for ON and PCS with a different alternate code based on the duration of the procedure. And that was with both PCS 6022. If you are going through 60 to 61, this information is included on the 60 to 61 enhancements list that your specialist should provide you. There was also enhancement to the IV documentation screen. So this goes along with our infusion titration enhancement. And this just pretty much allows for non-titratable IVs to be able to kind of document those rate changes with the infusion titration functionality. If you're interested and have not seen the infusion titration enhancement yet, we do have an individual WebEx that we go over that functionality. So I would highly recommend that you go review that. We do have a build guide for that on the product and resources homepage under the DMV resources. And that goes over the setup. The most important thing to keep in mind with the infusion titration enhancement is that everything needs to be set up in order for it to work. So there are those queries on the infusion mapping tab. If all of the queries are not in there for the infusion queries and the intake queries, it will not work correctly. So that is something that we do go over during the infusion titration WebEx. But I like to stress it during this one as well because we don't want you to go live with something and it not work because there was a missing query or something. With the infusion titration changes, there were some extensive changes to the med documentation workflow dictionary. So I'm just going to pull that up so you can see that. So if you've seen your med documentation workflow dictionary in 607, you'll notice that this is vastly different than what it was. I feel like it's much more streamlined now. It makes a lot more sense, a lot less tabs. And there is a conversion that development introduced. So if you are going from 607 to 608 or 607 to 61, there is a conversion that can be used for you to help you rebuild this dictionary. And you should reach out to your PCS specialist for information on that. We do recommend that when you do go to run this conversion, please, if you're 607, this would only impact if you're going from 607 to 608 or 607 to 61. If you're going to 608 to 61, you're not impacted. But recommending printing the dictionary report for the med documentation workflow dictionary and the titration dictionary, because with 608 and 61, the titration dictionary is eliminated and everything is put into the med documentation workflow dictionary. So you'll see the admin assessments tab has been removed along with the non-admin assessments tab, and you'll see I have the medications. I can define this by location if I need to. I have my formulary items here. I have my administration assessment, titration. So the titration assessment here is only going to be if you have titration assessments associated to that formulary item in the titration dictionary in 607. You'll notice when I'm in edit mode, that field is grayed out. And then if there's an additional intervention I want documented during the infusion titration process, I can add that here. And then down here is where I would associate my reassessment. So it's no longer on its own tab, it's all on one tab. The same thing with the route and the order type. And then these tabs are going to look different depending on some infusion titration setup, which you can review during the infusion titration WebEx. And then infusion mapping is where we set up all the queries for infusion mapping. There's a new tab for cosign on IVs. We have the acuity tab, which stayed the same. And then there is also a give line enhancement, which we do have a KB article out there if you're looking for information on that. But we should have some information on that in a later WebEx, where it's changing the way the give lines display on the MAR, depending on either default, and it can kind of change, give you more information, or if you like the way the give line works, you can have it set to legacy give line, which will work as it does now. Another big change with some enhancements is changes to monitor functionality. So the monitor dictionary is now available standardly, so it will appear within the dictionary menu options for patient care. You'll see I have it highlighted right here. We also allowed for the ability to edit monitor values based on stuff in the intervention dictionary. So I have in the intervention dictionary, when I have monitor capture set to yes, I have my monitor capture default interval. So this is the interval that's associated to the monitor as the default. So I don't need to change this. Prior to this enhancement, you could only change it on the work list after you click document or capture. But now you can set it at the intervention level. Whether or not the values are editable, I can set at the intervention level as well. And for 6.1, it allows me, if I want to be able to manually document on the monitor, I can do that as well. If I want to be able to edit values, it's a bit of a two-step process. So in the parameters on the plan of care tab, I need to make sure allow editing of monitor values is set to yes. And this ensures that you're turning on this ability at your facility. And then you can also restrict it further in access. And whether or not I'm able to edit monitor values, going to be down here, yes or no. Okay. And then the last one we like to show is the IV dose verification project. So if we go ahead and look on the MAR2 tab, I have this enable ingredient dose checking for IV and alt type. So this project allows for the ability to enable the comparison of the scanned amount of the ingredient within the IV medication to the ordered amount for that IV fluid. It's specific to IV fluids with an additive, alternate IVs, and premix. All right. And that is everything we have for the Enhancements WebEx. We have the chat enabled, so if you do have any questions, please ask the chat or raise the raise hand feature, and I can see if anyone has any questions. All right. Dee, I see that you raised your hand. I'm going to promote you to a panelist so that you are able to speak, so you can ask your question. All right, Dee, you should be trying to unmute you. You might need to do it on your end. Okay, Dee, it's not allowing me to unmute you. I don't know if you're able to unmute yourself. If not, I would recommend using the chat, and I can read out your question and answer it from there. Oh, it looks like you are off mute now. So, Dee, what was your question?
Can you hear what I'm saying?
I'm sorry? Dee? Dee, are you there? I could hear you.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Deborah, I think that I missed this part, but is this being recorded so that we can go back and look at it?
Yes, I did record it. As long as I'm able to, once we end the online seminar, I need to do a conversion and save it and whatnot, and I will try to email that out to you.
Thank you.
And if anyone else is looking for the recording, please reach out to your specialist, and they can provide you the recording once it's been converted. So you might want to wait till maybe tomorrow to reach out to them. So it might take me a little while to get the conversion complete. So we did have so Dee, I am going to return you to an attendee. And we did have a question that was added. Are 616 enhancements included in this discussion? So everything that I did go over today is included in 616. All right. Are there any additional questions? All right. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for attending today, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their day.